What is going on, YouTube people? Northeast Ohio Cards and Comics here, talking a little NBA today. And we are going to look at 6 NBA players that have not seen price increases yet since they've bottomed out this offseason, or very small price increases. So like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff down below. Market Movers link is down there. We'll be using Market Movers a bunch today to show off our wonderful charts and graphs. If you want to check it out, 20% off coupon code down below. Highly recommend Market Movers. So I wanted to dig in and look at a bunch of stuff. Originally, when I was putting this video together, the plan was to do 6 guys, or not 6, just X number of players that the market has kind of forgotten about. And when I started digging in, I was trying to find essentially like what their low point was in the offseason, which, roughly speaking, for future reference, at least this time around, seemed to be late June to early July is when most of the NBA market kind of hit its bottom. Some players have stayed relatively flat since that point. Some players have already started to go up. We've seen it with Luka. We've seen it with Trey. KD has started to go up. AD's actually seen a big run up from his bottom. I was not expecting that. And a bunch of others. Like I said, I originally was going to do this list for players that people don't really talk about and that you don't hear a lot of buzz about, like Brandon Ingram, Zach LaVine, Colin Sexton. Who else was on that list that's seen a big De'Aaron Fox, guys like that. And when I started looking at them, a lot of them have already gone up a lot since their bottoms in late June, early July. De'Aaron Fox's stuff was up like 20 or 30% from the floor that it was at back in like around 4th of July. Ingram stuff was up pretty decently. Colin Sexton stuff was up, same thing, 20, 30%, give or take, from the midsummer. So it suddenly turned into, well, what guys haven't gone up yet? So that's the list that we're doing today. So these 6 players, I am not personally saying run out and buy any of these guys. In fact, there's some of them that I am actually fairly interested in, and there's others that I'm kind of meh on in regards to a go out and buy them perspective. This is just 6 players that I found it interesting that their prices have not moved literally at all, in some cases for months, which tells me that they have definitely hit the bottom. And we are in the dog days of the NBA calendar. There is nothing going on right now, and there's not going to be anything going on for another month. At least another month until training camp opens. And all the buzz and hype is going to be on football. Everyone's going to be looking over here. And we should be over here. Can't see me pointing. Scooping up deals on the NBA market. You know, I did it a few weeks ago. Bought a bunch of Trey Young and Luka. I bought another card today. A little lower end card that I actually found while doing research for this. So let's go ahead and dive in. Try to keep this one quick. So 6 players that their stuff has not gone up yet. Spoiler alert, one is Joel Embiid because he's the first one up on the screen. This one really surprises me. One, for what his base card is at price-wise and how flat it has stayed. So this is his Prism. Some of this stuff I picked different cards to look at, just kind of depending on the year and the sets and what's available. For Embiid, I just went with Prism because it was 2014. This is his base Prism and his Silver, both in PSA 10. Thing to keep in mind on these older sets, base is perfectly fine because base pop counts are low. His PSA 10 Prism base is only popped 1,200. That's not a lot. The surprising thing here is it's only $400. That, I know he's a big guy, and I know he has injury issues. But that just seems so cheap for a guy that would have won the MVP last year if he wouldn't have gotten hurt. And if they end up trading Simmons for a big name player, his stuff's going to see a huge spike. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. But if it comes out tomorrow, if the Woj bomb drops tomorrow that says Ben Simmons to Portland for Damian Lillard and a bunch of other shenanigans, what are Embiid cards going to do? And Simmons is probably getting traded. It's just a matter of when. So his base PSA 10 Prism being only $400 seems a little crazy to me. His Silver at 2K, I don't know. I don't know that I would want his Silvers at 2K. just due to his injury issues. But a base at 400, that's a little more tempting. Though his silver PSA 10 has only popped 67. That is extremely low. Holy smokes. I would actually, this would be a case where I would actually almost prefer the base over the silver because of the entry level point. This feels like, for me personally anyway, this for me, 2K on one of his cards is a big investment for someone that is that injury prone. 400 for one, if he misses some time, I think that's a fairly reasonable price. I don't know how much lower I see that going unless he was very significantly injured. But you can see this chart goes back almost 2 full months, about 60 days, a little over 60 days, up 12% on his base. Only 2 silvers have sold, but they're basically flat at down 9%, but very little movement here. 363, say that 10 times fast, to 410. So not a big jump in prices on Embiid at all. Next up on the list, let's talk Celtics. Jayson Tatum. I was surprised by this. Now, he has seen some run up. You could see his stuff's all in the green, but not much. And this is going back, once again, about 2 months. Most of this stuff goes back to around that last week of June, early point of July. And what I tried to find was around when most of the stuff bottomed out. For Tatum, I have a slew of cards here. Optic Base, PSA 10. Optic Hollow, PSA 10. Mosaic, PSA 10. Silver, PSA 10 Prism. And Base, PSA 10 Prism. Once again, you see over here to the right, very little upward swing. 10% on his base, 10% on his hollow, 1% on his mosaic, 2% on his silver, 9% on his prism base over the course of 2 months. These, to me, this is one of the guys that I would be interested in going after, but I'm a big Tatum fan. I think Tatum stuff is criminally undervalued. Like the Optic Hollow at pop 350 for 830 seems extremely reasonable. The one that's the biggest screamer to me, in which I do own this card, full disclosure, I bought one at the National. I know Flipping Steve's on this bandwagon too. And this was one of the things that I was looking for at the National because I bought this card and a Luka Mosaic PSA 10. The 16, 17, 18 Mosaic is insert set basically from Prism, and they look absolutely fantastic. They're gorgeous looking cards. They're a little niche, so it kind of goes a little against my, buy cards that matter thing, but they are very sexy looking cards, especially if you go with a team color match or just a true mosaic, the silver. And they're very low pop. This is pop 300. And it only goes for $400. Luka's is pop, I think 400 or 500. It goes for a K. Luka's actually outsells his base Prism. A lot of the others don't, which I find interesting. So Luka's base Mosaic outsells his base Prism, which I personally think it should. In Tatum's case, it does not. In Trae Young's case, I don't believe it does either, but I'd have to double check that one. Regardless, my point stands. I do like the 16, 17, 18 Mosaic. Very nice looking cards. Very low pop count. But in general, you can see Tatum stuff has barely moved. So if there's NBA stars that you're looking to get into and you're like, crap, I already missed the window on Luka, Trae, KD, AD, I think there's still room for that stuff to go up. But this stuff I still feel like has a decent amount of room because it hasn't moved yet. So pick the player, do your research. Pick whatever one you like the price point on. And if you like the player, potentially go make a play on it. Because I'm really surprised Tatum stuff has not moved at all. And to go right along with that, his running mate, Jaylen Brown, same thing. I really like Jaylen Brown. I think he's sneaky good and very underrated. PSA 10 Prism, Silver, PSA 10 Base, Optic Base, Optic Hollow. He does actually have a Mosaic as well. It's not in Market Movers, though, which I was a little surprised by. The 16 Mosaic is pretty in the weeds. So once again, about a little over 2 month chart, almost a 3 month chart on this one from when his stuff bottomed out, and you could see very little movement. Silver up 20%, Optic Hollow up 13%, but both his base cards are down. His Optic base down to $85 seems interesting. It's not the best looking card in the world. It's okay. I've never been a big fan of 16 Optic myself, and this is coming from someone that really likes Optic. I like 18 and 19 Optic the best. But his base Prism being only $200, and that's I know base Prism. Oh, it's only popped 730. It's not like this card is super common. And actually, 16 Prism looks kind of sneaky good. I like the little color match thing that they did at the top and bottom there. Not a bad looking card at all. And for $200, that just seems extremely reasonable. Jaylen Brown is really, really good, and his stuff did see a big run up. He had a really good month last NBA season where he was just tearing things up, and his prices really got up there. But I'm very intrigued by the prices on him as well. He's actually probably, full spoiler alert, probably the most intriguing one on the list in my eyes. And I actually bought, the card that I bought was one of his cards. It was a Mosaic PSA 10 that I stumbled across for basically going market rate, but I thought going market rate was way too cheap. So I pounced on one. Donovan Mitchell. And like I said, these are not necessarily guys the league has forgotten about. These are star players, but their prices just haven't moved since they bottomed out. So to me, that screams a buying opportunity. So we have Donovan Mitchell, a bunch of PSA 10s here. And once again, time frame on this one also right on about 2 months from the end of June until the end of August. So for Mitchell, we have his PSA 10 Silver Prism, base Optic, Optic Hollow, Concourse Silver, absolutely gorgeous looking card. And I did pull his 17 Mosaic. And what you see down here on the right-hand side, Silver Prism up 8%. Base Prism up 3%. Base Optic down 10%. Optic Hollow up 13. Concourse Silver up 18. Mosaic up 35. So Mosaic getting a little bit of love here at about pop 330. But in general, you could see not much movement on Donovan Mitchell's stuff. And he's really good. There's a weird what if verse out there of he doesn't hurt his ankle in March. And what does the NBA playoffs look like last year? If he's fully healthy for the NBA playoffs, do they lose or do they make it to the Western Conference Finals? The team was pretty good, and they were rolling when he was healthy, and then he wasn't, and then things fell apart. So, and Mitchell's a legit good player, and that team is legit good. Now, they always fail out in the playoffs, but who knows? But his PSA 10 Prism being only $1,100 seems really cheap to me for a silver Prism that's pop 550 of an NBA elite star. You know, he's not like superstar level, but perennial all-star, best player on a team, one of the best teams in the West. That seems extremely reasonable. If nothing else, one day he demands a trade, and that'll go to the moon if you're willing to hold long term. If you're just looking at base stuff, that all seems reasonable. The Optic Hollow is the biggest one to me. I know Flipping Steve just picked up a bunch of these. $460 for an Optic Hollow PSA 10 of pop less than 300 seems extremely reasonable to me. The silver has gotten a little bit of run up, but I will say this one, it's only pop 70, and this is a damn good looking card. I absolutely adore 2017 Select Concourse. I don't own any in any players, but the silvers especially look really nice with this silver strip or silver crescent moon, whatever you want to call it, on the right-hand side. Just absolutely great looking cards. But Donovan Mitchell, no run up at all so far this offseason. 2 more to go. Ja Morant, of all things. This is his, I just went with his Optic base, Optic Hollow, Prism Silver, Prism base. And this is going back actually, same thing, a little over 2 months, back to mid-June when his stuff bottomed out. So from the time his stuff bottomed out up to today, Optic base, down 4%. Optic Hollow, down 8%. Prism Silver, up 24%. Prism base, down 8%. The market has completely forgotten that Ja Morant exists. Ja Morant is a really good player. I think he proved that in the playoffs last year. Now, the biggest problem is his team's actually not that good. Well, they're not good. They're like frisky. I just don't know that they're gonna battle for like a 7 to 10 seed. Like, basically the play-in tournament is where I see the Grizzlies fitting in. That team's still putting itself together. They are not in their final form yet. They're still in the incubation chamber. But he's really good. The team has a lot of young talent. They'll have a full healthy season out of Jaren Jackson Jr. this time around. That should make a pretty big difference. And they play really tough. And I'm a big Ja fan. I've not been shy about that. I am definitely in the market for some of his stuff. I would like to pick up some more. I sold off a lot of my base stuff that I have of his. I do still have some graded stuff, but I would like to get more. Specifically, some color, some silvers of various different sets. Selects, Optic, even a Prism, maybe a PSA 9. I don't know that I want to put out $1,500 for a PSA 10. But in general, Morant stuff, completely flat. And the other one, which boggled my mind, and I don't think this lasts much longer, Zion. Same thing. A lot of his stuff has stayed really flat. We went back almost 3 months on this one, the one he bottomed out. And once again, base Optic, Optic Hollow, base Prism, Prism Silver. Base Optic down 4%, Optic Hollow up 20%, Prism Silver down 4%, Prism Base down 8%. Pick your poison there on which one you like. I'm not the biggest Zion guy in the world. My biggest problem is I worry about injuries with him, which you could say that about anybody. And also, I just don't think that team's very good. The Grizzlies have a better team than Zion does, and I would rather have multiple Jaws for the price of one Zion. I would rather have two, personally, this is me. I would rather have two Ja Prism Silver PSA 10s for the same price as one Zion, if it was me. But I am biased. I am 100% biased on that. So that is not advice. That is my own biases coming through. So yeah, those are the 6. Some really intriguing names on here. Like I said, when I started doing research for this video, this is not what I thought this was going to turn into, but here we are. So instead of guys that the NBA market's forgotten about, it is that, but it's not what I thought would be on here. I was expecting Colin Sexton to be on this list. I was expecting De'Aaron Fox has gotten a little buzzy, but I still expected him to make this list. I expected Zach LaVine to make this list, but they've already seen big price run-ups. And I was specifically looking for guys that we have not seen run-ups on. So the NBA market is technically, sports card market anyways, has kind of forgotten about these guys. And there's some real star power on this list. We have Zion, we have Ja, we have Mitchell, Tatum, Brown, and Embiid. Like, that's an NBA All-Star team. And their prices haven't moved. So, curious, who is the favorite one on this list for you? This is one standout that you're like, wow, that guy's prices haven't gone up at all yet? Maybe not necessarily a specific card, but just in general, player-wise. Is there one of these guys that you're like, huh? Mine is probably Tatum, just because I'm most surprised by the fact that Tatum has not moved up yet, and Ja to a lesser extent. So, but yeah, smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't. We're on the quest for 10K. We're creeping. We're getting close. Getting a little close. We'll catch you guys and girls on the next one. Peace.